I was recovering from surgery when my husband secretly canceled my insurance and maxed out my credit cards. "You're dead weight," he said as he moved his new girlfriend into our home. I cried for days until I remembered the power of attorney document he signed before my operation. The bank froze his accounts the same day he tried to buy. I had surgery on March 22nd. I remember that date because it was supposed to be the beginning of something better for me. My back had been shot for years. Constant pain, limited mobility, nerve problems that made my legs go numb when I stood too long. But I put off getting help. There was always something else. Nate's job stress, his sister's drama, house repairs. And deep down, I was afraid of being that vulnerable. When my doctor finally said, "We can't wait anymore," I agreed to the operation. It was risky, but I needed a shot at a real life again. Before the procedure, the hospital required me to sign a medical power of attorney. Someone to make decisions for me if things went south. Nate didn't hesitate. We both signed copies at the bank. He made a dumb joke about getting to pull the plug if I became a vegetable. I laughed, even though it gave me a bad feeling. Surgery took over 6 hours. I came out groggy, drugged, in more pain than I'd ever felt in my life. I spent 3 nights in the hospital, then was discharged to recover at home. But things didn't go how I imagined. Nate seemed distant, cold. He would bring food, but never sit with me. He'd hand me my meds, then leave the room. I figured he was overwhelmed. He wasn't used to me needing help. After the first week, he just stopped coming. I texted, called, even had a nurse call him once. He always had some excuse. Work emergency. Phone died. Helping Carly move. Carly is his younger sister, or so I thought. I came home after 3 weeks in rehab. It took everything in me just to walk up the steps with a cane. The front door didn't open. There was a suitcase blocking it. Mine. I thought maybe he was cleaning. I rang the bell. No answer. I knocked. Then I heard it, laughter inside. When the door finally opened, a girl stood there, 20-something, blonde, wearing my favorite gray hoodie. The one I wore when I couldn't stand to wear a bra after surgery. Behind her, Nate appeared. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept much. But not guilty. Not surprised. "I didn't think you'd be back today," he said. I just stared. "Who is she?" He didn't even flinch. "Her name's Kelly. She lives here now." It hit me like a brick to the chest. He never said sorry. Never asked how I was feeling. Just crossed his arms and said, "You're dead weight. I can't do this anymore. I need someone who adds to my life, not drains it." I should have screamed. I should have fought. But all I could do was ask if I could grab my things. He said I had an hour. That was it. Kelly never spoke. Just stood there, arms folded, looking smug. I left without making a scene. Took the suitcase, my meds, my laptop. My sister came to get me. The next week was hell. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I called my insurance to reschedule my follow-ups, and that's when I found out my policy had been canceled. 2 weeks after my surgery, Nate had called and revoked it. Said I no longer needed it. Said we were divorcing. Then I checked my credit cards. Maxed. Every last one. Over $29,000 in charges. Not on bills. Not on medical care. He'd bought a new laptop, jewelry, dinners at high-end restaurants. He took her on a trip to Vegas. He used the power of attorney to destroy me financially. I didn't even know he had my login info until it was too late. I cried for days. Couldn't believe I'd been so stupid. He played the long game. Waited until I was at my weakest and gutted my life. Then I remembered, the power of attorney wasn't just for him. It was mutual. My hands shook as I pulled out the paperwork. Still active.
Still signed.
Still legal. I dressed slowly, braced my back, and went to the bank. I didn't lie. I told them I suspected financial abuse. That I needed to protect what little I had left. The woman behind the counter looked concerned. She pulled up Nate's accounts. I showed her the document. She nodded, took it to her manager. Turns out Nate had opened a new joint account in his name and Kelly's 3 days earlier. He tried to put down a down payment on a luxury SUV in Portland the morning I walked into that bank. That purchase never cleared. The account was frozen that afternoon. That was step one. He had no idea what I still had on him. After the bank froze Nate's accounts, I thought I'd feel some relief. But all it did was give me a clear head, and with it came rage. Not just for what he did to me, but for how long he'd probably been planning it. I started digging. The bank confirmed he'd drained our joint savings 6 weeks after my surgery. That money was supposed to cover my recovery and help with the bills while I was out of work. Over $18,000 gone. Transferred to his personal account. From there, it vanished into cash withdrawals and luxury purchases. I found receipts for a hotel in Cannon Beach, spa visits, even a down payment on a private trainer, his new girlfriend Kelly.
Yeah.
She wasn't just some random girl. She was his personal trainer. He'd met her 6 months before my surgery. The more I found, the more I realized Nate didn't just betray me. He replaced me, step by step. While I was going to pre-op appointments, he was planning vacations with her. While I was signing consent forms, he was prepping his new life. But I wasn't done yet. That power of attorney still gave me legal leverage. I couldn't touch everything, but I could freeze anything in both our names, and more importantly, I could request financial records. That's when I discovered he had set up a private investment account using my social security number. Opened 2 months before my surgery. He listed me as a silent contributor, but none of the money came from me. He used my identity to funnel money and dodge taxes. Now it was fraud. I contacted a lawyer, a real pit bull recommended by my sister's divorcee friend. I showed him everything: canceled insurance, stolen credit, identity fraud, power of attorney abuse. He said, "This isn't just divorce. This is criminal." Within 2 weeks, Nate was served with papers. I filed a restraining order, a petition for restitution, and began proceedings to sue for damages under elder and disability financial abuse statutes. Oregon doesn't play around with that kind of crime. He tried to call me, left a message crying, saying he made mistakes and was under pressure. That Kelly had convinced him I'd never recover, that he needed to move on. I didn't reply. A week later, I got a call from the dealership in Portland. Nate had tried again to buy that SUV, this time under Kelly's name. But they flagged him after seeing my legal notice and froze the transaction. Word was getting around. Then came the kicker. Kelly found out what he'd done in my name. And she dumped him.
Publicly.
She made a post online calling him a manipulative coward who used women like bandages. She even apologized to me in a message I almost didn't read. Claimed she didn't know he was married, didn't know I was recovering from major surgery. He lost her. He lost his accounts. He couldn't make rent. And he couldn't stop it because for once, I was the one holding the pen. But that wasn't the end. I still had one more card to play. A few weeks after Kelly publicly left him, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting.
Nate.
Inside was a long, messy attempt at an apology. He didn't deny anything. Said he wasn't in his right mind, blamed his midlife spiral, and claimed Kelly wasn't who he thought she was.
But it wasn't really about me.
He was spiraling because Kelly had cleaned him out. Turns out the last month they were together, she convinced him to put the title of the car he did manage to buy, a used BMW, under her name. Said it would be better for taxes. Then she left. With the car. She also emptied what was left of the cash he'd withdrawn. I knew from the account statements she'd somehow gotten access to the new joint card. I didn't feel sorry for him. Not for a second. But something in that letter stood out. He wrote, "I shouldn't have let Carly talk me into this."
Carly.
His sister. That name stopped me cold. I always thought Carly was a little too close to Nate's business, always nosing into our finances, always helping when she wasn't asked. But I'd never suspected her of anything more than bad boundaries. So I started digging there. With the help of my lawyer, we pulled email records and flagged transfers. That's when I saw it. 4 different deposits, each around $3,000, sent from one of our old accounts straight to Carly over the last 6 months. labeled repayment. I confronted Nate through the lawyer. He finally admitted Carly had been pushing him to cut loose and start over. She'd been feeding him horror stories about people who go under caring for a sick spouse. She told him I'd drag him down, cost him everything. She helped him set up the secondary accounts, even drove him to Vegas when I was still in recovery. She wasn't just part of it, she orchestrated it. I filed for a restraining order against her too. Then we hit her with a subpoena.
She panicked.
Tried to delete her digital trail, but it was too late. She'd committed conspiracy to defraud. And Nate's fraud case just became a family affair. She had a cleaning business under an LLC, but now the IRS was sniffing around. She was under audit within a month. Nate was buried in legal debt, and she was facing civil penalties of her own. Word got out around their little circle. Carly lost 2 clients in 1 week. Their mother, who always hated me, called me in tears, begging me not to press charges. Said families shouldn't destroy each other. But they already had.
And I wasn't finished.
The court hearing was held on a rainy Thursday in December. Fitting, really. I walked in slow, still using a cane, but I didn't feel small anymore. I felt sharp, focused,
Alive.
Nate looked like a ghost. Hollowed out.
Suit too big, eyes baggy.
Kelly was gone. Carly didn't show. The judge listened to everything. The financial abuse, the forged credit activity, the power of attorney misuse, the insurance fraud. I had documents for every step. Screenshots, letters, signed papers. I showed how he canceled my health coverage days after my surgery while maxing out my credit cards. I showed how he tried to make himself judgment-proof by shifting money into Carly's accounts and Kelly's name. My lawyer was ruthless. Nate's lawyer was a court-appointed shell, barely putting up a fight. The judge's ruling came fast. Nate was found liable for $74,000 in damages, restitution for my medical debt, the stolen credit, and the fraudulent account activity. He was ordered to pay every cent, plus legal fees. The judge also referred parts of the case to the district attorney. That meant criminal charges might follow. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just watched as Nate's face collapsed under the weight of it. But I wasn't done yet. I filed a civil suit against Carly 2 weeks later. She tried to fight it, claiming she didn't know what Nate was doing. But the paper trail proved she'd helped him move the money and encouraged him to leave me right after the surgery. She settled out of court, $15,000 paid over time, or face further action. Her business was already crumbling. Word spreads fast in small Oregon towns. Nobody wants a house cleaner tied up in fraud charges. She lost her Yelp page, her commercial clients, and finally, her LLC license. The final blow? I sold the house. It was mine too. Legally. Despite everything Nate tried to pull, he never removed my name from the deed. With the judgment against him and the mounting liens, the house would have gone into foreclosure. So I forced the sale while he was couch surfing. The equity was minimal, but I used my portion to move closer to my sister into a smaller, single-level home with no stairs and wide hallways, easier on my back. The house closed in April. Nate was served notice to vacate within 30 days. He called me again, left voicemails.
Crying.
Angry. Then apologizing again. Then threatening. I never picked up. Kelly sent me one more message too. Said she didn't know the extent of what Nate had done to me, and she was sorry. I didn't answer her either. I finished physical therapy that summer. Got stronger. Still need the cane sometimes, but I walk straighter now. Lighter. What they did nearly broke me. But I didn't let it end there. I took every piece of damage and turned it into something solid. I made sure every lie cost them something. Not out of spite. Out of survival. Out of justice. Out of the simple truth that people who try to bury you should never be allowed to walk away clean. Nate lost everything he used to replace me. And I got back everything he thought he could take away. My name. My strength. My life. And now he has to live every day knowing I walked through hell and came out the other side holding the match.